And welcome back, everyone, to the second game of the stream coverage for the 2023 New Zealand Mixed Ultimate Championships Division 1 Day 2. We have on your screens at the moment Credo, proudly supported by Canterbury Ultimate, to come out on defense against their opposition. Marvellous DC, supported in part by Christchurch Physio, as their team does appear to be plagued with a number of injuries. Nevertheless, they are an incredibly strong team. My name, as always, is Blair Munro.
And I'm still Kelsey Bielik.
And it is a pleasure to be here for you as Haberfield for MDC starting to break through the Credo zone.
Blair, I'm so stoked about this matchup. We've got two powerhouses of clubs, Wellington, Christchurch, North Island, South Island, represented here on the field right now. Really exciting. After the first matchup, we saw Big versus Marvellous DC Kudos, which was similarly an Auckland-Wellington matchup, but two powerhouses of clubs. It's a really exciting day. Thank you for joining us. Let's see what's happening on the field right now. We've got Marvellous DC with possession, looking for the first point of the game, which they've scored. Some incredible handler movement, and there's such depth on this Marvellous DC roster. As Blair was just saying, while we do have physios on site, and thank you very much for the generous support, there are quite a few injuries on the team, notably Nikki Bodis, Zara Bowen, and Troy Stevenson. Huge players, hugely impactful on the team. Currently out right now, watching from the sideline and supporting from the sideline. Hopefully, as we can see from this first point, not too much of an impact on the playing, and hopefully they can still offer that insight and that support from the sideline, but definitely difficult as teammates to see and to be a teammate and experience from the sideline when you want to be on the field supporting your team.
Absolutely, Kelsey. And I mean, I'd say Troy's tall more than he is huge, but it is a shame to see him off the sideline after a recent move to Wellington, joining the MDC Southern roster. The team Boat from Wellington, instead of playing for Auckland's MDC Boat, as we've seen him play in the previous years. Botus as well, a pickup for the central side from last year's Huripari after the splinter that led to the formation of Big, who we just saw a few points down, defeated by MDC Boat in Auckland.
But, you know, despite a few injuries, a few players sitting out this match, both teams sending and still have so much depth to their roster, so much experience in the handler space. We've got a horizontal stack for Credo right now, 3 handlers back, Tiong with the disc.
Supported by Mance and Douglas. Wilcock aggressively applying that defensive pressure, but again, Bryn Douglas is going to put it up, and Van Turnhout with the disc. Quick offload.
Edwards, previously a player last season with Credo in this space, now picking up with the Marvellous DC Wellington component. A turnover leads to possession for Credo once again. Yeah,
Ruhlman trying to thread up that far sideline to Claridge, not able to get it in the hands. Tiang again, driving one through to Becky Farr.
And we're seeing a relatively slow tempo from Credo right now. Handlers are looking for the right options. They're trying to find those open players. What a swing around to Fraser. Continuation. And it's a point. Not a point.
Called not in. It's going to be far on the end zone after a great reception from Douglas. Big fakes to get a bite out.
Swinging to Tiang.
Goes wide to Far. Mance was there as an option, but Ruhlman's closing the jaws.
Looking for a give-and-go strike cut, covered by Ruhlman on the mark. But the second time works a charm.
For the score. Credo answering with one of their own.
How good. 1-all on the board as Credo ties it up, beginning of the game. Exciting to see both teams firing, give and go. A few turnovers in that possession. Now, what's going on with conditions right now, Blair?
That's a great question, Kelsey. Now, a far cry from yesterday's gale force winds and drizzle. The clouds are starting to settle in here at Bob Dean Field in Ōtautahi, Christchurch. The wind is starting to gust a little bit. It feels like it's coming from the near side of your screen, pushing gently towards the far side. So not a huge play yet, but a little bit of crossfield means that we might see some more aggressive trap action. Players will be using their defense, forcing towards one of those sidelines and forcing players to either throw into the wind or to throw with it, in which case they need to be better at judging the distance and power they put on some of those discs. Mance with a great assist for Tiang there for the first point on the board for Credo.
And I also want to comment on the depth of both these rosters. You know, across both teams, actually recently, hugely for New Zealand, the mixed team Manuka walked away with first place at the Asia Oceania Ultimate Championships. And there were players across both teams that were representing Aotearoa New Zealand on that roster, which is really exciting to see them here as former teammates matching up. We're representing two different clubs.
And we're going to see Tiang with the pull to come out on defense for Credo one more time, with Fernando, Clark, Legrell, Mance.
Tiang with the pull, and it's really great to see one of the key players. She's been brought up within the Credo club space. She's really developed as a player, and I think one of the top handlers in this space. You can see the power behind her pull there. She's got slicey backhands, forehands, and definitely a threat. She's on defense now. We've got Haberfield with the disc, and really a lot of depth in the handling space with Marvellous DC. You can see him moving the mark around there as he's trying to find the open options. He's off to the races.
Haberfield, nice, quick give and goes.
Riley with the disc there. She's a pickup, a ringer that Marvellous DC has brought in from the States, spending some time in New Zealand and really helping to fill out the handler space.
Looking back, Broughton doing some verbal quarterbacking, working off disc, managing to find it after a nice little recentering pass from Haberfield.
And we're seeing a zone, of course, as we're seeing on this field. Credo is running a zone, which I think is a good decision. We're seeing it slowing down, again, the tempo, as I said previously, that Marvellous DC has been playing at. Nonetheless, it is a really big challenge and slightly calmer conditions. When you're throwing a zone against a team with such experienced handlers, with such strong connections, it does enable them to break through space like that.
Robertson with some big fakes on that far sideline, having to work hard to try and get around that zone defense. The Credo players aggressive in front of the disc, chasing it back and forth across the field.
Now, when you break through the zone, it's really beneficial to continue that flow going. The cup, Mance on the mark there, really seeks to clamp down and make it difficult to continue movement. So once you get the movement going, Robertson was looking for that quick continuation. However, big props to the defense and adding that pressure. See, they've broken out of the cup now. Riley looking to continue, opting for the safe reset. Marvellous DC inching closer to the end zone.
That's going to be Lynch for the score.
And she's paddling on the boat. Look, everyone's getting on board. I love that celebration.
Well, like the old Whakatoki says, when we're all in the boat together, we're all rowing in the same direction.
And we're seeing Mahi-Tahi teamwork, working towards one common goal for Marvellous DC there as they add one more point to the board.
Absolutely. Great work there by MDC. Nice flow, nice patience as well. It's an offensive hold for them and a clean one. No turnovers in that point.
Yeah, and interesting to reassess strategically from Credo's perspective. The zone was really effective, I think, when they were in their half of the field, in their own half. Before they crossed the halfway point, we saw a lot of stagnancy, or maybe not stagnancy, but just the movement was slowed down. Handlers were holding the disc for a second longer, and even when the throws were broken through when they moved past, we saw Robertson trying to look for continuations downfield, but opting for the safe reset. However, it's difficult to stop when they're inching towards the end zone and on the doorstep. Interesting if Credo will decide to continue with that zone or maybe switch to a different one or match defense instead. Credo on offense, we've got Marvellous DC pulling downfield.
Great long shot there. It's going wide and deep. It's going to be Taylor Nartz to pick up, supported by his wife,
Taylor
Nartz. Besseling.
Ooh.
A definite collision there. We had Jack Lewis and Riley Van Turnhout.
I really liked the aggression that Van Turnhout was bringing. We see that again. He was after the disc, I think. Maybe just, it looked like not quite aware of where spacing or positioning was. I really appreciated the energy he was bringing. He was fully going for that defensive play. Looked like he thought he might even have it, but yes, unfortunately resulted in contact. Yeah,
so we're going to see what happens there. Honestly, I think Van Turnhout had great positioning on that disc. And possibly we might get to see, I think it was Lewis initiating contact there. But it looks like the foul is going to be accepted anyway. So Credo is going to retain possession.
So also with regards to conditions, yesterday we had a lot more wind, a lot more rain. And there's a slight crossfield breeze. The mark right now we're seeing to respond to that, forcing downfield. The hug goes up.
For McIntosh, can't find him. Great pressure by Wilcock there, a new pickup,
Absolutely.
formerly of Hamilton Prime fame, if you can call it fame, but he's been drafted across to MDC Boat for this season.
And I think without that defensive pressure, I'm not sure if, you know, they were both hotly contesting that disc, but without that defensive pressure, despite the fact that there wasn't that he didn't have a clean play on it, it's still just being in that space, adding that intensity to the catch made it just too difficult for Credo to reel in.
And so Van Turnhout is going to pick up and initiate, supported in the upfield space.
Look at that great initiation. We've got an undercut streaking deep, followed by another undercut, well-drilled, well-spaced vertical stack. It's clinical. The hook goes up.
Huge shot. Who's underneath it? Wilcock for the score to put it 3-1. Boat over Credo.
With the bookends there, and he's stoked about that. Look at him striding off the field. Stoked about having bookends, a massive defensive play followed by, or initiated play followed by a beautiful point in the end zone. Great catch. Another point for Marvellous DC on the board, and this is the break. They are up another point. It's really up to Credo to figure out how to respond in like kind. Turnout firing that shot. That was a
great full field shot.
Yeah. Yeah, despite pressure, there was coverage. It can be difficult when, as an offensive player, it's really nice to have an additional offense behind your back, you know, in case the disc floats too far, in case you're not quite in the end zone and you need to pop past to make that point. However, with too many people in the space, it looks like the shot may have initially gone up for Mildenhall, but with too many people in the space, it can add extra defense, it can add some congestion, but really cleanly taken and great to see players reading the disc, reading the space, avoiding contact as well.
Looks like it's going to be Robertson with the pull. A huge rip, nice high angle on that. It's going to touch down a little bit, Blady. Just enough float though, but we're going to see an offside signal being given by Taylor Nartz, which is going to allow them to bring the disc to the brick mark.
And Kat Taylor Nartz walking it up. Looks like there's a bit of communication on the field. Robertson indicating, and some chat with the observers on the sideline. Taylor Nartz walking it back to where the disc came down. We're seeing players adjusting on the field to that spacing. Now this is a bit more dangerous, a great around swing.
Great thread there to Lewis, who goes to ground to keep it alive. Pushes back to Kat Taylor Nartz.
Great composure.
Big shot up the far sideline, looking for Lee. Manages to find him. Nauman available as a reset. He's one of those dominant left-hand players that we love to see in the Division 1 Mixed Ultimate Championships. Comes back around to Lewis.
Macaulay Scott with a disc, finding the swing to Lewis.
Taylor Nartz.
Back to Taylor Nartz. Oh, what a break as she finds Sam Taylor Nartz.
All those Bulgarian split squats she and Sam have been doing in the gym are clearly paying off. That lunge as the shot goes up for Campbell Nauman.
You know what, Blair,
an absolute truck of a man.
You just said it. You said, you know, he had the disc. He's such a powerful player. He's got so much strength, poise, and power behind what he does. That allows him to get a really strong first step to create space, or in situations like this, let's see one more time, take to the skies to reel in those discs. What an epic display of athleticism and strong defense too. Great coverage, but really difficult when, you know, he was pulling out the wings to take off to reel that in. A great point to Credo and another one on the board into what's turning into a neck-and-neck match. This is exactly what we've been seeing, what I like to see. It's one for the fans.
Fitzpatrick on the mark against Taylor Nartz. Gave him a little bit too much room to unleash that monster throw. And then we had Neil in hot pursuit, but he was not able to come down over the top of Nauman. A fantastic play there.
So as I said, there's a slight cross breeze, and because of that, we've been seeing a lot of the forces towards the home side. That's the side with the bleachers. Yeah, making it a little bit difficult to swing upfield. We haven't seen that as an issue at all for the strength of the throws that both of these teams have. Robertson with the disc.
Comes around to Haberfield near side. Puts a low shot up.
Looking
Overthrows
for
Riley.
And she's got some wheels. We see her chasing it down, but can't reel it in.
That is, I believe, the third of 3 AUDL players we've seen on stream already. We have had Jeffrey Burris for Euphoria. We have had a great attempt at a run through, but it doesn't come away. We had Ryan Sheridan for the Austin Soul in just the game only before, and now Haberfield, who played an incredibly great rookie season for the Atlanta Hustle. Great pinch there by Robertson to get the turn back. Finds Riley, far sideline.
She fakes for the strike, looking for options.
Goes around far for Haberfield. Quick back over Clark. Not going to be the option.
Great to see the well-drilled Marvellous DC stack. See how they're all in the middle of the field. They're leaving space. Riley reeling it in. She's not in yet. Rollman finding the disc in the end zone for another point for Marvellous DC. Oh, I take that back. It looks like there was a pick. I was just talking about the well-drilled stack, so it's great that everyone is creating that space for their teammates, really opening things up for options. However, things may have just gotten a bit too congested. When so many people are moving, it can be difficult to find space without running into someone else, which looks like it happened just now.
Yeah, so just a reminder for those watching at home, Ultimate being a non-contact sport, when a player's ability to pursue their offensive counterpart is impeded by the movement or positioning of other players on the field, and they have to abandon the pursuit of that player in order to avoid contact, that constitutes a pick. Players are given the opportunity to catch up to where they were, and then the play is restarted. So we have Riley working with Robertson in the upfield space. Ruhlman was going for it again. Nando with a little bit of a slip for Nando there. Takes a bid, can't get it. It's Haberfield up over the top to Ruhlman, who ends up with the score anyway, widening that margin ever so slightly by 2. It's a small number, but it is big enough.
It is big enough. Marvellous DC showing great poise and patience, especially after the pick there. With the swings, the resets, they're trying to find the open players, and they're not firing any shots. It's white line fever when you're at the end zone and you're just excited to score the point. It can be so enticing to see an open player and make that shot, resulting in potentially a misfire. Defense coming out of nowhere. So again, really well drilled on Marvellous DC's part. I think a play right here, we can see them swinging to the length of the field, not afraid to use the width, not just getting tunnel vision for the end zone. Swinging to the middle, Robertson looking for open options, then swinging to the far side, Haberfield, and then finding that open option. It's also punishing. It's part of the reason the mark forcing to the open side, not getting broken is so critical, but such a challenge when you have a range of throwers. You know, Credo responding and we've seen Taylor Lenartz, Kat Taylor Lenartz, Sam as well, but throwing some incredible rounds and breaking the mark. Really important for both teams to recognize that and the importance of not getting broken.
Bryn Douglas with the disc now, working with Tiang in the upfield space. Clark coming back as an option. It's Mance.
An interesting zone here. It looks like they're running a cup. They don't have a consistent chase as the mark is switching. 3 people in the cup and then a close downfield. So what they're doing is that they don't have too many people around the handlers, but they're really just marking space, making things junky and difficult to find the open players. Now I know, given this line here of handlers, we've got such tenure and experience. It's probably a place where Credo likes to be, and just solving this riddle, solving the problem, trying to figure out how to unlock the puzzle of the zone, where the open players are, and how to move it past to score the point.
Yeah, so it's going to be Mance again. We've got that MDC zone closing in tight. Hogg aggressive on the mark, but Clark's able to get around to find Far. Quick one chip up to Mance, back to Clark in motion.
So unable to find that continuation, that open player, he's opting for a swing, a high swing around to the high side of the field. And now there is a mark, it looks like. The cop is closed in.
Douglas again working through that zone with a scuba over the top to find Tiang. Wide side to Tony Clark.
Now, interestingly, they're still in a zone formation. At this stage, commonly teams might switch to person or match defense. But still in the zone, they're trusting each other to cover space and know where the offensive players are as Credo inches towards the end zone. And maybe they should have switched to match.
Yeah, a great find there by Clark. That quick change of direction, I think, is the critical thing for Lee for the score. As all of the attention, all of the momentum and the flow of the play is pushing towards that near sideline. When they got those big one-shot swings and then gradually the zone was able to chip them back towards that near sideline, when you start to build that tension, we see here, big fake towards that near sideline. The defense caught on the back foot, having to circle around, leaving that channel wide open for Lee to bring it back to a one-point game.
Great point for Wong. But yeah, exactly. As Blair's just explaining, capitalizing on the space. As I've mentioned, it can be really beneficial if you have a well-drilled team maintaining that focus in the end zone. You're marking space and not a person. The danger therein is that if you move around, if you're shifting as a player, as Wong did, he shifts from the sideline into the central space, which is essentially two areas of coverage that defense need to be aware of. So when you lose track of one person, when they go out of your region that you're in charge of and into another one, just having that heads up to pick them up and cover, it can be difficult to do that when in such a small space. Credo capitalizing well on that and yeah, reeling in another point.
Nauman with a huge left-handed pull. It's going to edge down and touch just in front of the MDC boat defensive zone. It's going to be Broughton and Robertson again with Riley. Big fake, but McGuinness is going to shut that one down. Robertson on an undercut, marked by the real Lee this time. Apologies to Wong in that previous point. Crosby, marked by Fraser, comes wide to Neal as Lewis closes that down.
A really similar playing style that I'm really enjoying from this Marvellous DC team, compared with their sibling team from Auckland. Kudos. Oh,
that's Lee team with a great run-through layout block.
But a similar playing style, bringing the energy. We've got Credo seeking to match that now on offense. Fraser with the undercut from the front of the stack.
McGuinness trying to open up that near sideline. It's Besseling, comes down with it. Quick chip across to Lewis for the score to tie the game for Credo.
What a great point. And I'm sorry to say, Marvellous DC just kind of, they lost a bit of that energy. It was open side, open side, open side. The downfield defense just not able to keep up with the speed, energy, and flow that Credo has drilled. Let's see that one more time. That's the defensive play, the swing. Some crystal ball gazing
there by Fraser. And again, you'll see McGuinness opening up undercut. Riley close on defense and forcing her to the wide side. Lewis thought that one was for him, recognized Besseling was in position, decided to continue his cut to provide that immediate open opportunity to score there.
Open side, open side, open side. Some really great continuation cuts, great flow. It looks like they've drilled this well. They're backing each other up, and then a strike cut for the points.
Now, and that's one of the perils, right, is when the score happens on the open side, it really gives you an indication that the job was easier for the handlers, which means the cutters are really doing a huge amount of work to get that separation from their defensive counterpart. That means that the point was really driven by that downfield. When you have that string of breaks, it's typically because you have one great throw from a handler and then a bunch of easy uncontested passes. But those open cuts, just fantastic work in the downfield. We're going to see the brick mark given by Lachlan Robertson, so he's going to bring the disc back to a point in the middle of the field about 18 meters in front of the end zone to initiate play. Despite that great pull by Nauman touching out of bounds, there's no advantage that's going to be conferred to the defense for that throw.
And, you know, there was a lot of energy behind that throw, and a shout out to our sponsors at Hell's Pizza for providing us and providing everyone with the energy we need, the delicious pizzas we need to pull like that. Unfortunately, so far that it goes out of bounds. Haberfield with the disc on offense.
There's the famous Atlanta Hustle rookie flick huck.
Taylor Nartz gets a hand in the way.
Huge touch by Taylor Nartz.
And, you know, I'm such a fan of that matchup. Robertson and Taylor Nartz, both such athletic players, both so fast. We see Fernando there, tournament director.
What else can I say but bruh?
He's fired
Just
up.
a fantastic run through by Taylor Nartz. Again, doing a lot of great plyometric work in the gym in his off-season. Those are Instagram clips worth watching. He and his wife, Kat Taylor Nartz, putting in a huge amount of work to develop the lower body springs that are allowing them for that acceleration. Bessling has the disc now. Marked by Riley, goes back to Taylor Nartz, who's looking to try and get around Mildenhall. Can't do it. She's faking a lot, but it's not going to happen. There's the turn.
And there was a lot of defensive pressure there. Look at that point. Quick transition. What a fast transition.
Great work by Ruhlman. Again, just a very, very impressive cutter when the Auckland Blueberries in the women's division decided to take a team to world stage to go international for the first time. They picked up Ruhlman and a couple of other key players who really helped to round out their great core. And again, it's just that level of play that's on display here in front of us. Huge work by number 17 for the boat side.
And I would just want to shout out that point there. Marvellous DC really, they took charge of it. They were in charge. We saw Taylor Nartz. She's such a strong handler, but she was fighting for options. She was looking, I mean, there was a really strong mark. She has the throws to match up against that, though. But I think downfield, there were cuts happening. We've got fans from all over, even the furry friends on the sideline. Shout out to the pups who are here as well. But back to Taylor Nartz, such a strong handler, but really fighting to find those options. The stall count was high, and McGinnis made a great cut, but with that defensive pressure, again, right on her back, she couldn't reel it in, and then the quick transition following that for Marvellous DC to score another point. The disc goes up, Lynch with the pull.
Great pull there by Lynch, and one more offside call. We're seeing a lot of these during the play. People have clearly done their advanced accreditation prior to this match, and they're really trying to make sure that players are sticking to the rules.
Just echoing that, all these players need to be familiar, aware of, and able to use the rules and apply them in a game context, as there are no referees. So really, as Blair was saying, advanced accreditation, they're drawing on the mental as well as the obvious physical skills on the field.
Now, it does raise the question as to how egregious an offside violation is and what impact it really has on the play, but it's something they've chosen to focus on, and it's given them a lot of opportunity to bring the disc back to that brick mark as they start things off.
A zone from Marvellous DC with an assassin. They're taking out the swing, which we can see on the far side. Mildenhall right now covering the middle, and they'll switch. Meanwhile, there's 3 people, 1 on the mark and 2 forming a wall around that, and what a massive wall that is. Intimidating as a thrower to really look up over the top, try to find what the options are. Credo slowing down a little bit, but still really safely finding those options. We've got great throwers. Clark here with the disc, just taking his time to figure out where the best option is. And breakthrough, which they've done, beautifully done. Fraser with the disc, looking for the continuation. But they can't keep that going.
That's going to be a turnover for MDC Boat. An opportunity here. We've seen what Riley does when he picks up the disc close enough to his defensive end zone, but he decides to go not for the haka. Great bid by Douglas, throwing one wide open for Wilcock. Why was he so open? Looks like an injury may have been called there.
Also, shout out to Grace Douglas, who is Belle Fraser's sister from another mother, on the field.
Sister from another mister, I believe.
Anyway, out on the field.
Oh, what a touch on that disc for the turn. Great work. We're going to see an injury substitution. It's Haberfield on for Van Turnhout. Fernando coming on for Douglas.
Edwards with the disc. Swinging to Lynch.
Goes around to Haberfield. Laser beam up to Wilcock on the far sideline, marked by Clark, but Haberfield's available as a reset. Manages to run that one down. A nice drive up the near side, backside. Edwards with through pressure from far. Puts one up for Haberfield, not quite in. He jogs it through, putting one across. to Claridge for the score to put one more on the board for MDC Boat.
And I love Lynch's celebration there. She was also in prime position, just backing up her teammate in case Claridge may not have been in position, and celebrating just as much as well. Love to see it. Edwards with the disc. Let's see it one more time. She's looking for the swing. Haberfield going for a strike cut, easily with a separation, and then just walks it into the end zone. Open side cuts again for Marvellous DC, something potentially for both teams to recognize how the downfield defense is really allowing a lot of these plays to happen. It looks like defense, again, from both teams, a little bit out of position, not marking that open side. Something both teams could consider in stepping up. At the same time, both offensive lines on Credo and Marvellous DC is so strong, so defense really needing to step up to the challenge.
Yeah. Boat up by 2. We're going to see a female matching majority point here. The clap of unity from Credo, throwing up the Y. The MC and A are nowhere to be seen as Lynch has the disc with the pull for MDC Boat. Some whistles from the sideline to signify that the play must continue. Stephanie Lynch with a nice low line drive right to center field to be picked up early by Douglas after that substitution in the previous point. Finds Tiang as a center handler there. Goes back to near side for Douglas. Putting a big shot up, looking for Becky Farr.
Oh!
Can't quite make it happen.
Another prime example where in any other situation she would have caught it, but just with some really intelligent coverage from Mildenhall. Mildenhall wasn't in a position to get a hand on a disc, but just by providing pressure, just putting pressure on that catch, manages to result in the turnover. Lynch looking to continue on the break side, back to Mildenhall.
Farr fading off to stop that hut, gradually closing the trap. It's Neal as an option. Chips one through to Robertson, but it looks like a travel's been called by Farr on Mildenhall.
So we'll see that one more time. Really nice quick movement from Neal to Robertson afterwards. But going back to the call, Mildenhall has the disc, and they're, I think, discussing where the stall will be coming in at 4. She's looking to engage Neal again. Going for the long strike cut. Neal's in the power position, launches it break side.
And it's going to be Fitzpatrick versus Douglas. They're not going to be able to chase that one down. Great defensive pressure there. I think that was a little bit of a wobbly shot to Neal on that upline cut, that long one that you pointed out. I think players in the downfield space for MDC were a little bit slow to initiate their reset options. Farr on the near sideline goes to Tiang, center field to Mance.
A lot of separation between the handler defense and the handlers right now. Looks like they're really trying to trap the lane, make it more difficult. The great toe in, beautiful footwork from Douglas.
Douglas calling for an upline, threads the inside to Farr. What a great put. Clark hanging out in that space, so there's no continuation on that upline. She's forced to go back center field.
Really nice
Tiang to Mance.
Handler movement from Credo right now. They're struggling to find those downfield open options, though. That could be in part because the handlers are sagging off, just trapping the lane a little bit, making those throws harder. It's stagnant, though. Really big props to the downfield defense, Robertson, for helping to shut that down. It looks like there may have been a call on that catch, though.
Definitely a foul there, but the throw turned early and looked to blade into the ground. Clark, I mean, it's an ambitious one. The way he turned back through to try and get that definitely fell a lot shorter than when he was expecting it to. Great reactions there, but I think he actually came on the wrong side of Robertson to make that a clean play.
Mance, you can see with that that outside in forehand, maybe if it had a bit more power behind it, you could see her hopes that it would snake around the players on the field. Rollman taking some breaths. Really solid breath work there. I think less taking a break. She's such an athletic player. She's you know, really ready to play 3 hard days of Ultimate, and more just calming things down, potentially being that calming sense on the team, just to slow things down, ensure that Marvellous DC is playing defense and dictating the game at their pace. We'll see, though, because Credo has the disc, and what will happen. Again, they've been struggling a little bit to get open downfield, I think, due to really strong match defense from Marvellous DC. Nonetheless, great movement in the handler space. So after this conversation, what will happen?
Yeah, so it's going to be Mance going around to Douglas, pressing that near sideline for Farr yet again. Mildenhall getting involved, getting in nice and close. Perhaps a little too close, but it doesn't seem to affect Farr's ability there. Goes around to Mance, a laser straight into the hands of Ruhlman, who pats to the ground, continues that into a deep cut, hoping someone can quickly pick it up and initiate the offense going back the other way. It's going to be Lynch to Neal. There's the big shot, looking for Fitzpatrick.
So much separation.
For the score, Boat up by 3, 1 point away from half in this game to 15.
What a beautiful point. Neal just seeing that open option, and then Fitzpatrick with the separation. Defense were walking away before the catch even, just knowing, just recognizing the power of that play, and just recognizing how little defense could really do after the first few steps had happened to shut it down. Another great point on the board for Marvellous DC. Let's see it one more time. This is the turnover. Ruhlman with the run through D. But again, the downfield offense for Credo just facing a lot more pressure than they're used to. Really struggling to find those open passes. It's really great to see cuts still happening. There's a lot of movement, but they can't get that separation that they're used to getting with other teams.
And I think as well, just with how tight Ruhlman was on the defense there, Mance maybe overcompensating slightly that previous turn where the disc rolled over a little bit early, maybe had a little bit too much outside on that forehand. The throw she was trying to put there, she wanted a bit of outside forehand on it to curve it around where Ruhlman was, maybe overcompensated a little bit to avoid it turning over too early. That's what allowed that run through. But it's just that tight defense that creates those opportunities for Boat to generate those breaks and come back, putting 3 points up. 1 point away from taking half.
And maybe it was that breath work from Ruhlman, or maybe it's the fact that she has not a fifth gear, but a sixth to power through those defensive plays. We've got fresh lines on the field, a lot of depth in both rosters. Marvellous DC coming out on defense. We'll see if they maintain the zone that we've been seeing with that huge wall with Hogg, Van Turnhout to get around, or if they'll be sticking with the person defense that I think honestly would be the best idea in my opinion, just given how successful it's been putting pressure on the individual players.
Wilcock with the pull for MDC Boat.
I don't want to say it's a strong line for Credo, but in all honesty, every line is a strong line.
Absolutely. Taylor Nartz early.
We've got two handlers back.
Lewis
turning into three.
Joined by Taylor Nartz again.
A quick recognition of zone offense, swinging across the field to Taylor Nartz.
Great attempt by Claridge there.
Really deep downfield, but not a challenge for the handlers. Taylor Nartz able to find that space to McGinnis with the action roll, keeps the disc alive.
An option may have been there as Lewis came through, but has to come really close to the reset. Big hammer goes up for a wide open.
Taylor Nartz assessing options, finding McGinnis, and I think McGinnis is such a great example. She's such a strong cutter, but also such a strong handler. Her ability to navigate both spaces, her flexibility, theoretically, also, I'm sure physically, he's an athlete. Just on display here, she keeps getting open. Nauman, however, with the points, another great example of flexibility between the cutting and handling space. Not a role player in a specific position, but given his ability, McGinnis' ability, so many of these Credo players' ability to navigate these different spaces makes it such a threat as a team, so much depth and experience and flexibility to move around and shift where needed to adapt to any type of defense.
Yeah, and I think that MDC in particular, one of the things that you mentioned earlier is that they're relatively slow to collapse that zone defense and switch back to a match. We've seen that so far in a lot of the points, and I think in that point in particular, it's a really important thing that maybe Credo are starting to adapt to that. They're recognizing, I mean, we could see there were quite a few players wide open, players on the near side sideline, players deep in the zone, Campbell Nauman, untouched by any defense. And yes, there's a lot of trust in the MDC zone to say, hey, even though we're close to the end zone, we still recognize that our spheres of influence are extensive. We don't have to necessarily be making aggressive marks on those players to make those plays. But Credo saw those openings and they were able to put one through to Nauman for a great score to bring it back within 2.
Absolutely. And something that honestly may work with Marvellous DC against other teams, but as long as Credo keeps finding those niches, those gaps in space, definitely something for Marvellous DC to consider switching maybe a bit earlier to person or match defense.
So the pull has gone out of bounds. We are going to see Robertson pick up and initiate, supported by Riley and Haberfield in the upfield space.
We've got Credo set up on defense. Looks like it's a match defense. Meanwhile, a horizontal stack from Marvellous DC lends itself well also, incidentally, to a zone offense if needed. However, of course, not the case right now.
Yeah, having that horizontal stack, it's great. It just provides extra support for those handlers to work in, out, and around the zone.
We've got such massive marks right now. Lee, Fraser, but Marvellous DC handlers Broughton now to Haberfield, having no issue in finding the breaks. There's the fake there, or moving the marks where they need. Broughton with the disc again.
Great leading pass by Haberfield to get out in front of the aggressive defense of Nauman. It's not going to stop Broughton putting a long shot up. Lee comes down with it over Robertson.
Such power behind that static throw. He was standing there, and just the ability to put the power into it. It's so impressive to see. Just a bit of congestion downfield, though, and an impressive D by Lee.
Great work there by Justin Lee. Just getting in position, shutting down, boxing out. It's going to get position back to Credo, who can maybe bring it back to a one-point game. Lewis with the long shot. Campbell got a touch on it, but Nauman is not going to be able to bring that one down. It's going to give it back to Haberfield on an upline cut for Robertson.
A great cut.
Robertson's going to get in front of Lee this time. He swings wide to a wide open Broughton, who's going to come to Fitzpatrick near side.
To the break side. Taylor Knight's going for the layout D against Riley, finds it. Credo need this break. What a big play.
And as long as you're creative with the spelling, you cannot spell Taylor Knight's without layout. You have to be very creative, almost as creative as these Credo players are with their offensive flow. Lewis with a great hot step to shake loose from Fitzpatrick. Goes wide to Taylor Knight's again. Bessling available as an option, marked by Forsyth, pushing that far sideline, but it looks like there's going to be a stoppage. It'll be another pick.
It looks like it might be an injury. I see Broughton walking off the field. It looks like he's okay as a player. In that he's walking off on his own accord. Maybe just a cramp or a tweak. Again, we've had quite a few injuries. Marvellous DC at this stage, they've got so many injured players on the sideline, so really great to respect that.
And if you happen to be suffering from a cramp, try one of our sponsors, Pure Sport and Nutrition, who have been helping to provide electrolytes for our players the entire tournament. Some great little drinks there to keep players up and upright. Lewis sending it big. Double coverage, and Neal is going to come down with it. A little cheeky pancake on top of McIntosh.
And no matter how strong you are as a receiver in the end zone, when you're sandwiched between players like Neal and Robertson, it's difficult to make that catch in the deep space. Haberfield is just raining these round breaks all day.
Little bit of a slip there. It's going to go up line to Fitzpatrick instead. Lewis with an aggressive flat mark so he can find Neal. Riley. Haberfield again. Lee now, he's starting to see that huck as more of a threat. That little flick huck that's brought him such claim in his first rookie season with the Atlanta Hustle.
Credo switching the mark here.
Oh, another foul called as Lee takes a tumble.
So Haberfield, we've seen him throwing the around flicks. He's been breaking so much. Interestingly, Teo Lennart's now forcing towards the camera, towards our screen, giving Riley the around throw. Switching the mark, potentially forcing middle, prevents a lot of deep hucks from coming off, but also can make, just clog the flow. Oh, apologies, Haberfield with the disc. I missed that. Clog the flow, though, clog the congestion. The mark leads to a turnover. Lee with his massive wingspan. Teo Lennart's off to the races.
Lee. Oh, what a great hand block there.
You know, that's a taste of their own medicine. You know, Marvellous DC has shown such great reaction. They've been adapting. As soon as the turnover happens, they capitalize on offense, and that's exactly what Credo just did here as well.
McIntosh
saying, hey, we got that
with
too.
A great score after Lee managed that great block on that attempt, the low release half pivot backhand. We'll see it here again. There it is, the half pivot backhand. He got a little greedy. Lee managed to get a hand to it.
And it's such a strong defensive play, too, you get in the mind of the throw a little bit. Teo did that, too, with her layout D. You know, you don't need to make every single play. You don't need every single hand block. You don't need to hit every defensive play down. But as soon as you start doing it once or twice, just the inconsistency can get into the mind of the offender, just making them double think where they're cutting, what they're throwing, and if they truly have that option.
A little low for Lee, but McIntosh is able to get it. What a great play to bring it back to within one.
What a game. What a game, Blair.
What a game.
We've got Tiang with the disc, ready to unleash downfield. A beautiful pull, and what she's done here effectively, she's launched it high so the disc is slow to come down. It gives Credo the time to boost downfield, put on the wheels as the disc hangs coming down. However, Marvellous DC already at the races. They're already making those swings, making those quick catches. Disc is coming up quickly. Broughton is assessing, finding the options, but really quick movements as they're finding it, launching deep to Mildenhall.
It's good. What a rundown. Oh, seeing the angle on that throw, I was a little worried about the execution, but
that is a Ryan Mildenhall classic.
Great adjustment there. That throw, just looking at the angle as it was falling, just made a fantastic adjustment to reel that one in. Perfect work there by Mildenhall. That's going to give MDC the half. Well, is it going to give MDC the half, or is Mildenhall just going to take the half?
She's got wheels under her, and the classic, the often one-handed. In that case, she saw it safely in her hands with a two-handed catch. It's just so classic, and I love to see that on display here. So difficult to cover.
Way to close that point out, Raya Thrildenhall. It's going to be MDC up by 2 in this game to 15. Sorry, the second match, the final game of pool play in the Division 1 New Zealand Mixed Ultimate Championships in 2023. Brought to you by ULTI.TV. If you want to help us give you the very best in coverage for the best sport in the world, here, New Zealand, here is New Zealand, Australia, and some of those other 184 countries, South Sudan maybe, Bosnia-Herzegovina. Head on over to patreon.com/ULTI.TV and give us your spare change. Every little bit helps. We will be back with you very soon.
Kia ora koutou, no mai haere mai, ULTI.TV Christchurch. Hello everyone and welcome back to the second day of the 2023 New Zealand Mixed Ultimate Championships. We are also in the second half of this power matchup between Marvellous DC Boat, hailing from Wellington, and Credo Christchurch, hailing, of course, from Christchurch. North Island versus South. My name is Kelsey Bielik.
My name is Blair Munro. What a privilege it is to be here to talk you through, to be your eyes on and ears on the ground, to provide context and commentary for the greatest sport in all the world and possibly other worlds. I don't know. As soon as we establish a colony on Mars, the first thing I'm going to do is send up a 175-gram Discraft Ultra Star.
And you know what, Marvellous DC, I'm sure on the same plate with that, we've got players from across the Marvel and DC universes. So, you know, with their own respective worlds, no doubt, in agreement. They took half with 8 points again, so they're up 8-6. Credo, though, giving them a run for their money, fighting for every point, really struggling a little bit with the intensity of the defense that Marvellous DC has been throwing, but a really impressive matchup, such high energy from both teams, and you know what, this half is anyone's game.
And Lynch is about to send up the pull for DC, a little bit of a last-minute discussion. Now, one thing that we talked about in the first half was the tendency for teams to collapse a zone when they get closer to their defensive end zone, and MDC haven't done that. Credo has been able to capitalize on that a couple of times by playing tight and playing focused and recognizing when those players were unmarked. We'll see if they're able to continue it.
Credo with the disc. We're seeing a person matchup, a slightly poachy person matchup. Lynch definitely reading the space.
Yeah, Legrell goes back to Tiang. Mance. Tiang's calling for yards to be taken. Douglas is shut down on the reset, and it looks like a stall has been called. And the turnover, looks like the turnover is going to stand. So, much like a shot clock in basketball, a player with the disc has 10 seconds to relinquish control of that disc before it generates an automatic turnover, as counted by their opposition. As Kieran Monsell of Hammertron Fusion fame is known for saying, all you need to do is play 10 seconds of good defense.
And you know what you see there? You see that there were options. Tiang was waiting for she wanted a safe throw, but looking at the screen there weren't really any safe options. Marvellous DC!
With an early long shot to Wilcock. Van Turnhout not able to get free, goes back to Neil.
Oh, Claire, just so much separation on that cut, and it may have been because it was a pick.
And a pick has been called. We see Claridge on the far sideline, incredibly open.
Yeah, and again, potentially because there's no one marking her, it may have been a bit congested in there. Yeah, that just goes back to Neil. So as I was saying with that last turnover, there were cuts happening, but there's just so much pressure on the match defense from Marvellous DC. Well experienced with the footwork, the positioning needed to shut down players. Off to the races, Neil releases a cheeky high release forehand.
Well, Finn McKenzie giving up on that one long before Wilcock had actually put it into hands. It's going to see Boat go back up by 3, a slightly wider margin.
High release to the break side, and again, that's such a challenge to defend. You've got a player like Neil with such a range of throws, and it's really on the mark to try to shut those down. However, it's still a break side throw. It's thrown from the open side. You know, he's not stepping around. He's just taking that high release flick that he has in his arsenal and putting it to the break side defense in position to defend whatever comes to the open side, but it's so challenging when throws go to the break side. Again, that's why it's such a dangerous space and so easy for Wilcock to see into his hands.
Yeah, so we're going to have Robertson, Van Turnhout, Wilcock, Hogg, Ruhlman, Lynch, and Edwards to take the field for MDC. The entire Credo line, just making sure that their offensive side is getting the support they need from the sideline, making sure everyone is dialed into whatever strategy they're going to bring down to really try and test the MDC defense.
The whistle blows twice, indicating that players need to be ready to make the pull. Robertson with the disc, ready to launch it downfield. Credo indicating they're ready by putting hands up, and the disc goes up.
Huge long shot. Everybody's got eyes up. It's Taylor Nartz early, finding Lewis in that center field. Van Turnhout calling for Nauman. Makes a great undercut to get separation from Hogg. A left-handed flick through to McIntosh. Lewis on a great shot.
Oh.
Bessling not gonna be able to chase that one down.
Blair, I loved that shot.
I love that cut too.
Unfortunately, I think that happened earlier in the first half also on the other end zone, other side. There's been a few times when Credo have pulled out those inside-out forehands, and it's so challenging, as I've said, to get touch, to get softness on those. You need power to put them up, and that one had just a bit too much power on it, carrying it too far out of bounds. It happened one time on the other end of the field with an end zone shot. It's happened with a few inside outs, so it's up to Credo to recognize that and reel that in, because it's such a beautiful look, though. I love it.
So we're going to see Van Turnhout pick up the disc to initiate.
Speaking of things I love, the spacing in this stack, I don't think we're going to see any picks.
Bessling closing off to stop the continuation from Edwards.
Finds Robertson.
Wilcock gets the disc over McIntosh. A big fake. McIntosh not going to take a bite. Just gives him a little bit of room, but he's managing to close down, keeping the stall count. It's just Scuba over the top.
Marvellous DC having no issues finding the break side. Here Robinson launching to the open side, looking for Rollman.
Despite a great...
And Rollman, one of the most intelligent players on Marvellous DC. I'm honestly not sure about the number of degrees she holds, but you know, her ability to read is all I have to say at the end of the day.
And really, it doesn't matter how many degrees she holds. What matters is that she holds the disc as she comes down into the end zone for the score, putting Boat up by 4. A great amount of energy on display, some of it manifesting as perhaps a less than ideal display of spirit and sportsmanship as the players go back and take the line. But nevertheless, great athleticism and field intelligence is being put on show by MDC here today.
Definitely. Just reading the disc into her hands, it's such a strong skill she has in addition to the speed and athleticism. But reading where it's going to be, seeing it into her hands, what a great point. Shout out to the fans on the sideline. We're joined by some of the audience in the stands. Some nicer conditions today, sun's out, and definitely an intense rumbling matchup between these two powerhouses of clubs. We've got Marvellous DC racking another points on the board, starting to pull away a little bit right now. Credo ready downfield with their offensive line. We'll see what they have to show. Neil with the pull.
Fraser, Lewis, McIntosh, the two Taylor Nazis, Lee and Macaulay Scott. Sam Taylor Narts to Lewis, a nice wide low shot. Goes around, bounces off. Cat Taylor Narts to Lewis again, center field. He pushes that into an upline cut, gets faked off because Fitzpatrick is in hot pursuit. Fraser on an aggressive undercut, manages to slip past Claridge.
And such intense defense. See this, Taylor Narts is struggling to get open. He's tripping over his cleats as he's trying to break those cuts.
He might be tripping over his cleats indeed. Macaulay Scott's gonna get it anyway.
What an incredible cleanup there. Finds the open side. A great give and go.
Huge touch on the disc by Forsyth for MDC to get the block.
That was huge.
And immediately turning it into a big shot. Lewis in pursuit of Fitzpatrick, but Fitzpatrick's going to get it. Hogg running on. It's Riley with the disc as Taylor Narts closes the trap, goes back around to Fitzpatrick as Neil catches up. Drops some yards to give it to Van Turnhout, swinging back to Neil in a quick 1-2.
Really great flow right now from Marvellous DC. We see that the stack's so deep. They're really isolating the handlers right now, giving them space to move. Claire's looking in the open space, finds just enough separation from Fraser to reel it in. That's a classic cut we've been seeing from her. She's hungry to add to the stats. She's been scoring so many points, and she's making those open side cuts consistently getting free as well in the end zone. And
MDC Boat are going to use that to widen the margin even further. The second half has been all them 3 back-to-back breaks to go 11 up over Credo's 6.
I think right now, Marvellous DC is really, they're just really in their flow. the few errors we were seeing, the bobbles, the issues they had in the beginning of the game, they've fully gotten into their momentum. They're making connections. They're making incredible break passes. And that last point, it was hard to see how they could make a mistake. So much trust in each of the throws, each of the players, and it's just up to Credo to really match that. Yeah.
And that's the question is, are Credo going to match that? Last year, they managed to come away with a 4th place finish after just a really great run in the tournament. Their stream game against Hammertron Prime is absolutely worth a watch. One of those textbook universe point finishes. Credo are known as a team that when the eyes are on them, they play to their own level. To an extent possibly unmatched by any other tournament or team rather in New Zealand Ultimate. And at the moment, they're missing that fire. We need to see something wake up in them if they want to stage that comeback.
Yeah, because I feel like Marvellous DC has really, they've woken up in a lot of ways. They've upped the intensity. And one thing I do really appreciate that Credo's maintained is there's still, you look at the body language of these players, their heads aren't down. You know, they're not closed off. They're not getting frustrated. They're still high-fiving each other after every point, recognizing the strength, the effort that they're all putting in. Really still together as a team that shows physical signs of mental resilience, mental strength. They're just still playing at that level. What they need to do is step it up, as Blair, you just mentioned. Exactly that.
One more time. It's going to be Lynch with the pole. Ruhlman, Milden Hall, Edwards, Wilcock, Hogg, and Robertson.
And the sun's out, bombs out for Lynch as she launches it downfield.
Fielded early by Douglas. Once again working with Tiang and Mance in the upfield space. Finds Tony Clark on an undercut who lets one rip long.
Finding Douglas. And what a D by Mildenhall. Looks like it may not have been a clean play though.
18 on 18, number twins. A little bit of violence. You love to see it.
Also such similar playing styles, I think. Douglas and Mildenhall.
A cute little note as well. If you can see Robertson there with cupped hands, signifying that he has tea to offer if anybody wants it. It's a great little way, actually, and I think I'd like to see it implemented more widely. Players offering perspective, remembering that it's up to the players involved in the call who have to resolve it. And if they seek perspective, that's one thing, but offering it unsolicited, it kind of goes against the idea of self-officiation, allowing players to make those determinations for themselves. They've called in an advisor, our man on the whistle. And the foul is going to be contested, which again, even though players were not able to come to an agreement, does not imply that they're not making a good call in terms of sportsmanship. They recognize, hey, we weren't able to come to a conclusion. Yes, the play's going to go back, but we'd rather just keep playing than stand here talking about it, knowing that we're not really going to be able to persuade either perspective.
And Blair, I think you've said it really well in other games where sometimes a contested foul is the most spirited way to deal with the situation, respect the other team, respect your own abilities as well, and just continue with the game.
Yeah, I think it does come down to respect. The idea of a foul anyway. The idea is you're trying to show your other team respect, and what's the most respectful thing you can do, or respectful thing you can do, is say, hey, we want to keep playing with you. It's going to be Mance with the disc marked by Lynch. Big fake towards that near sideline, opens up the far sideline for Douglas. Can't get that upline followed. Hogg's reaching for it, but Clark's going to come away with it. He's calling for those undercuts. Pushing wide to Fernando as Robertson closes in. Mance near sideline. Such a kind player as well after yesterday's conditions. She actually asked if she could bring blankets for us in the booth here to try and keep us warm.
And so much tenure in the Christchurch Ultimate community as well. Can she play defense on this? Lynch reads it deep. And it's just too high for her. It's a tricky catch to make, that fading throw. Lynch is such an athlete. I've seen her climb to the skies. But just a bit swilly. She went up and it bopped off her hands. It gives Credo another chance. Tiang is walking back to initiate the throw. Some conversation on the field. Chong will be picking up the disc. With Douglas and Mance. We're seeing the same match defense from Marvellous DC. Again, I love this. It's really, I think, an intelligent play from them. They've been shutting down so many options. I'll stop harping on about that. But strong defense, I think the match makes sense. Meanwhile, Credo needing to unlock that, find that energy to boost past, to juke out the players, to find those breakside throws. Launching it deep, and it comes out as a blade, losing the power.
Yeah, we've had a couple of situations where, to quote, of all people, Will Smith from the movie Hitch, I saw that going differently in my mind. We've seen quite a few throws that they've just, you can see in the player's eyes, like, that's not how I intended to throw that. But Wilcock has it now, pushing to the far sideline for Ruhlman. We see Mildenhall streaking deep as an option, but it's looking for Robertson. Gonna find him.
A great connection.
By 6 now. MDC Boat putting one more on the board. The score 12-6 in favor of the side from Wellington.
And, you know, friends, Fano, Frisbee fans, one reason I love that point so much is because Ruhlman is usually the one scoring the points. She doesn't. I just rarely see those throws from her, and it's simply because she's the one either catching it on the end zone line and pop passing it, swinging it, being safe with the disc, or she's the one scoring the points themselves. And I love to see the dynamicism, as she's launching that disc deep again from a static position, just owning the field and throwing just such a great deep throw. Robertson needing to put the gas on a little bit to chase it down and then seeing it into his hands. What a beautiful connection from Marvellous DC.
And so we are entering the later stages of the game. So far, 4 points unanswered in this half, I believe, by MDC Boat. Walking away with things a little bit, only 3 points away from a victory in a game to 15.
Lynch with the disc and fans on the sideline. Unfortunately, a few of the injured players, again, supporting their team, especially supporting Marvellous DC, as well as Credo. Shout out to Samantha Courting, a menacing deep player on the team, such a lovely player as well, supporting her team from the stands as well.
Clark to far early. We see that MDC slowly closing in the defensive pressure. Neal on McKenzie, Van Turnhout on Clark. No one on Tiang until Riley gets in there.
A relatively deep stack, potentially. Oh, Clark with an incredible strike cut.
Oh, the throw was what made it happen. Goes up, finds Wong, center field, right in front of the end zone, only 18 meters or so. A quick offload, immediately stretching that into a cut, looking for the score. Clark trying to slash across the front of the disc. Instead, the reset is going to be the move.
Oh, that
McKenzie goes back around.
That's what a classic Tiang slicey backhand.
McKenzie over Neal, 56, one-ups 55.
And big respect to Neal also checking in just to make sure he initiated contact on that defensive play and just double checking that it was safe at the end of the day. I guess that there were no injuries or issues. But what a great point for Credo. They needed that. Such a nice swinging movement. And we see Marvellous DC previously with the pressure has loosened up a little bit on defense, potentially getting comfortable with their lead, and such a wonderful catch in the end zone.
Yeah, McKenzie with another big fake. And you can see, again, that cut right across, looking for the continuation. Sees that it swings wide across to Tiang, immediately turns that into a nice curvilinear sprint towards the end zone. A little close to the sideline there, but he's able to pull it down and keep that first point of contact after securing the disc in bounds.
The classic, as I mentioned, slicey backhand throw, the backhand break from Tiang. Not sure if it was a break or if the mark was coming around to prevent that, but it's a throw that she's so good at getting off. Throwing around and just really sticking in the minds of the mark, something they need to respect. Nauman with the disc.
Supported by McGuinness, Sam Taylor-Nards, Becky Farr, Lee, McIntosh, and Douglas. Fraser, my apologies. Big chases there. It rolls past Broughton a little bit.
And it looks like there's some communication between Broughton and Robertson. Robertson will be picking up the disc now because Broughton touched it and it rolled out. they'll be taking it from that disadvantageous position. That means it's the back of the end zone. Oh, I guess he didn't touch it. Apologies. Robertson will be walking it up. Nonetheless, a scary situation. And why is it so dangerous to be back in your end zone like that?
That
Blair?
is a great question, Kelsey. Quite often, particularly when there's a lot of pressure, you're looking to try and use the disc. You're trying to drop some yards to get around the defense. When you're right in front of your own end zone, any throw going back into your end zone is an opportunity for an interception, which will immediately convert to a score for the defensive side.
So Credo running a zone now. They've come down with a three-person cup. Looks like that third player, in this case Lee, is sagging off a little bit to mark the dump. And with some help from the wings also coming in to support. Interesting decision. I think it makes sense that Credo has decided to run this, in part because it switches things up. The Marvellous DC offense has really been charging through. They've been so clinical, clean, making those connections. So this is just another creative way to try to shut them down. However, also interesting because there's so much tenure, depth, so many veteran handlers on the team that this is, as I've mentioned with other teams, this is really their happy place. Haberfield, no doubt, really stoked to get so many touches on the disc and just figure out how to get through it. Broughton similarly. It is putting a slight damper on the movement, though, as we see Fitzpatrick, for example, as he's just assessing options, trying to find the open player. It is slowing down the tempo. Give and goes between Edwards
and Fitzpatrick, but they're forced to look backwards, getting Haberfield involved again as we see that zone defense. Those two players up the front and Sam Taylor-Nartz in the middle. Still letting one go up over the top for Haberfield.
Up to Credo really to maintain that defensive pressure, the focus, not let those players get open. Looks like they've broken past the cup.
Chips one more through to Fitzpatrick. Back to an unmarked Broughton coming around wide to Robertson. Through to Broughton again. There's a great slash cut from Mildenhall. Looked off in favor of a little chip through to Robertson, who's going to jog it away. 2 points away from victory, back to a 6-point game.
And Blair, I think that was such a great example of strong zone offense. The patience, the quick movement, handlers trusting each other, taking a quick look downfield to find the open options, and then once they push past the cup, the give and goes, the continuation, and really, again, Credo doing what Marvellous DC has, how they've been tripped up in the past, staying in the zone and just not, which again isn't a bad thing to do. Some teams are really good at it, but here, staying in the zone as opposed to switching to person allows Marvellous DC here with Robertson just to find that open space with one quick movement, one quick step, he's open and scores the point.
Yeah, just saw McIntosh trying to maybe cover a little bit too much there. So he'd given, I don't think he was expecting that cut from Robertson to cut right across, just inside the line at the front of the end zone there. Had taken a couple steps back just in case a more aggressive cut pushing to that deep space was coming. Robertson recognizing that, able to convert that quickly into a point. Only 2 away from victory. So far, it is 5 points to MDC against Credo's 1 in this half. Wilcox setting up a nice high pull. It's going to curve back. Taylor-Nartz hoping to field.
I think potentially in a zone like that in the future, especially given the touches that Haberfield had on the disc, an assassin on him would be a good idea. Not sure if that's something Credo's considered, but could be a great way of taking a key player or attempting to take a key player out of the game. We've got Credo on offense, intercepted by Neil.
He tried the no-look to Campbell Nauman, but you know who was looking?
Who was that?
Neil, number 55 for the intercept there. Quick through to Sam Ruhlman.
I didn't put a timer on for how quick that transition was. You know, after Neil got the interception, how long did it take them to score the point? I blinked and I missed it.
I genuinely think they probably could have gotten that in within the span of 1 10-second stall count. That was just real quick, really great offense there. MDC Boat with a huge hold. We're seeing it again, that no-look attempt. And it came out a little wobbly. I think maybe Neil capitalized there. Saw it. Nauman wanted it. 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005, 1006, 1007, 1008. Now, yes, it is in slow motion, but I'm also pretty slow myself. So I'm pretty sure my counting was good on pace.
And one thing that I'd love to see, thank you, it's a short point. It's exciting to see the disc moving that fast, but also one thing I really like in that short possession without very much space, the team is still throwing to the easiest open options, but the best part for me, I just appreciate, is that so many different players in the team touched the disc over the course of that possession.
It was like
how good.
six or seven connections there in just a span of a few seconds. Credo now right on the danger zone. It's going to be Mackenzie from Mance back to Mance as Mildenhall looks to close.
Ooh, she caught that disc. Looks like it just came out wrong.
Bryn Douglas, he's going to stop that huck, but we see a wide shot for Hogg. Mildenhall now.
Fakes the strike to Neil, finding a wide open.
Mildenhall wanting that cutting lane, but it was closed off as Hogg tried to push forward in that up line, or Neil, I believe.
Back to Van
Snapping
Turnhout.
back to Van Turnhout.
He wants the inside, but Wong has it covered. Swings to Riley.
Far, slow to close. It's going to be Claridge with the disc. Douglas can't stop it. Riley Van Turnhout, up and down. There it is, the close of the game. MDC Boat going up by 8, 15 to Credo 7. A fantastic finish for the side from Wellington. I think, I could be wrong, I think that is Credo's first loss of the tournament. So they were 4-0 coming into this match, same as Marvellous DC Boat. Fantastic performance by Boat to put that one out, to really close that one away. An almost unanswered second half, which is just about unheard of at this level. Really, really great to see.
Yeah, one thing I really enjoyed, that last point there, also just a great conclusion to the entire second half. That was Marvellous DC just finding connection. Great flow, great throws, great trust across the team, and a great way as a concluding paragraph, just summarizing what they've done so well and what we expect to continue to see them do well over the course of the rest of the tournament.
Absolutely. Neil punctuating that game with such an emphatic closeout. What a great point. We are likely to see possibly some of these teams a little bit later on in the tournament as we leave pool play and move into our bracket play to finish out the tournament. We are halfway through now. 6 more games on your schedule. We have quarterfinals coming up to close out the second day of the 2023 Division 1 Mixed Ultimate Championships here at Bob Deans Field in beautiful ULTI.TV, Christchurch. My name, as always, is Blair Munro.
And I'm still Kelsey Bielik.
Proudly supported by ULTI.TV. Please join us for the next one.
Matewa.
ULTI.TV.